everyone. Welcome to Alchemy Chats. This is going to be a collaborative series between me and Jenny. So this is Jenny Constantine / Moonstone. For those who don't know, she's a spiritual advisor and a very skilled intuitive tarot reader. And I'm Danielle from Miss Holistic. So we're going to dive into some spiritual topics, purpose, and navigating this ever-changing landscape from more of a spiritual lens, bringing in common sense and truth, and just having some unique angles to some of the stuff that's unfolding and how we can navigate our lives in a good way going forward. We're going to start by going into the ideologies that are floating around and some of the MAGA, what do we call it?
I would say because it's, MAGA has changed. MAGA has evolved or devolved depending on what perspective you're taking. So I know that was something that we wanted to discuss here, whether you're American, Canadian, European, it doesn't really matter because I feel that, MAGA has always been more about patriotism than anything else. And you can be a patriot as a Canadian, as a European. It's really just about a set of ideals or a set of values, and that can be translated across different countries and different cultures. And then I also think it's useful for us to discuss it and for people to hear it because we're in an interesting intersection between what MAGA once was and what it has inevitably become. And I just want to encourage people to understand that it's really you versus you. It's you versus how you feel about other people's opinions of you, because it's okay to change. And I think really that's kind of like the main point that I'd like to present today is that it's okay to change your mind. It's okay to not be who you were in 2017, 2018. New information comes about constantly, and if you are not dynamic, if you are not fluid, if you don't have an ability to pivot with your beliefs, with your views, I think that just moving forward, it's only going to get more difficult. So I just want to encourage people to know that it's okay if you don't feel like you identify with the MAGA movement of 2017 to 2020, 2022. It's okay. It's okay to change. It's okay to evolve. If you're doing the exact same thing, towing the same exact line as you were all those years ago, you're really, I think we're kind of missing the point. So I know a lot of us have to deal with that because now looking at the way things are, it can be very easy to feel like, oh boy, this isn't what we signed up for. This isn't what we wanted. This is not the result that we intended. So I just want to let people know it's okay to change your mind and to allow yourself to evolve and integrate new information and forget what other people have to say about it because they're going to judge you one way or another.
Yeah, I think initially some of these ideologies come online and it's this attractive new idea, and automatically we're thinking, okay, this is exactly what America needs, what Canada needs, what society needs right now. And I think it's just something to attach hope to. And it's kind of an instrument or a vehicle to have that hope in a better future. And sometimes we're just kind of misplacing that. And some of these ideologies, like even the Make America Healthy Again, there's been some pretty serious holes and accusations poked in that initiative too, where there could be things hiding under the surface that they're trying to slip through under the guise of purity and really like revolutionizing the healthcare system and the health of America. And of course, Canada always follows suit. But sometimes it's not what it looks like on the surface, but it is a little bit of emotional manipulation because we want hope right now. There's a lot of chaos happening. There's a lot of distortion happening. People are feeling pretty disoriented for the most part, and they just want some glimmer of hope for a better future. And I think that that's where we can over attach to hive mind ideologies, and we need to be able to sit back and question and do an internal scan of what is it about this initiative that is giving me so much hope or comfort or confidence or makes me feel like I'm right, that cognitive dissonance, stuff like that. And then when we can like reflect and see how that's being projected outwards and attaching us to these ideologies, then we can break free from them too. And it's not to say that these things are evil or completely dark or something like that, completely distorted. I think there's good potential in any movement, even if it was meant for dark.
No, I think you're right. Hope, comfort, community, being understood, those are, that's the very basis of trauma bonding. And it does feel, in hindsight, a lot of because I was a huge MAGA kitty, in my early 30s. I think I just like turned 30, 31. It was a very exciting time. We were really at the height of the Make America Great Again movement, and it felt really, really good. But times have changed and revealed so much more. And while I still, in my heart of hearts, I'm a patriotic person, that will never change. I think even our definition of country has changed. Our definition of the United States of America has changed. Our definition of nation has changed. But I do think that, like you said, political movements serve as catalysts. And so they very often show people the true colors of the society that they live in. And we can take some of the ideals that were at the very foundation of MAGA and basically build on those. I think one of the biggest things that I see is this sense of betrayal. So this was actually something I was kind of afraid of or kind of nervous about uh, back in this last election. I was nervous because my mind wandered into the possibilities of what happens when his entire base, when President Trump's entire base, or most of the base, really feels that rug pull or this sense of betrayal. Whether it's true or not true, whether this is just about the narrative or if he factually betrayed everybody, that almost doesn't seem to matter because it's more about what happens when a massive chunk of the populace is disenfranchised with their last shred of hope. And it's almost like that big letdown, that huge drop of hope. I think that was potentially always kind of the plan, was to take the wind out of the sails of everybody who put heart and faith into, the more political part of the MAGA movement. And so now I have this understanding that there is no political solution, but the foundations of the MAGA movement are still real. And there were no lies about the values and the ideology behind the MAGA movement. The lies came down to the political side of things, where the people that we put our faith in were not going to do what they said they were going to do. And they really never were. So we're kind of like this.
And that's a pretty ingrained collective belief that something political or someone political is going to come in and save the day. Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of people listening will be like, well, what is the solution then, if not political? And is it like a full revolution? Is it a complete crumbling of systems and a complete reworking of how we even think of the concept of political? Is it more spiritual? Like, how do you see things like once this, mega political war stuff develops more, how do you feel that's going to develop?
That's a good question. I really don't know the answer to that, but I anticipate that this next part has a lot to do with what people are able to build and create independently of a political movement. And I think a lot of young adults, because that's really where that's who I'm paying attention to. The younger adults, the people in their 20s, 30s, and 40s, early 40s. I'm looking at those generations of people because those are the ones that are going to take us into the future. Sorry, boomers. Sorry, guys.
Not you.
Millennials and boomers have like a bit of a blood match going on right now. So, no, but I really do think that we, the people, and whenever I refer to the people of the Republic, I use a capital P because I genuinely believe that the people is a sort of an entity, a true living, breathing entity. a living, breathing element of this entire puzzle. We're not just collateral, on a birth certificate. We are not just numbers. We are not just these consensus statistics. The people are a deciding element in the whole game. So I do think that this comes down to what people are able to create and build. I don't know about destruction. I don't know that the system needs help being destroyed because it's the Ouroboros, it's the snake eating its own tail. A lot of these people are going to find out that blackmail, greed, lying, cheating, stealing, a lot of that stuff will just get you to the same place. And yeah, they might have their bunkers, they might have their hideaways, but they can't trust each other. They can't trust each other. They've alienated themselves. It's like, what is, okay, good. You won the world, but it's Satan's world. Congratulations. You know what I mean?
Bravo.
So, bravo. Well done. Well done. You
Well,
inherited the ashes of this world.
yeah, and like anything you build on that distorted energy that is entirely survival based, self-serving,
Mm-hmm.
gives no regard for the organic energy that holds us all together and creates nature and
Mm-hmm.
follows natural cycles. Anytime you create outside of that or have a collective of individuals who insist on creating on that false mimicry, heartless, self-serving type of
Mm-hmm.
energy or framework, like on every level, mental, barely any emotional, um,
Right.
political, in their families and their societies, it's not sustainable. It doesn't sustain life by nature.
Mm-hmm.
So
You're exactly right. It's not a sustainable pace. And I've tried to tell people this, it's not, okay, oh, so you screwed everybody over and you got $1. You screwed everybody over and you seized the high ground, so to speak. But you really didn't. You really didn't, because this is all a frequency game. This is all about, your decisions putting you on a very specific path. And that path will lead you to the reflection of your decisions, one way or another, sooner or later. Oh, we're just like at a time of like the climax of nastiness between people. There's a lot of finger pointing. There's a lot of, this is your fault, this is your fault, this is your fault. Meanwhile, I think that that was probably always the plan, was to divide North Americans, divide Europeans, divide people of the world through, class or, race or religion, or you name it. They'll find a way to divvy people up.
I heard you say like they're building on false framework, right?
Mhm.
And they're not facing the consequences of their actions yet. Like in slow time, as there's a revealing and as there's some consequences, but not really, it's like they're not only avoiding the consequence of their actions, they're avoiding the reflection of who they are at a
Mhm.
soul level, if they even have them, right? I mean, in the end, the truth always comes out. So it's like, how long can someone avoid their own distortions and shadow and reflection of who they're being before their whole system and infrastructure implodes? And that
Mhm.
power that's allowed them to bypass all of that temporarily also goes with it. As a
Mhm.
system implodes, where's the power? They found power through distortion and trickery and mimicry.
Mhm.
And control of thoughts through these ideologies that we're talking about.
Mhm.
So, I mean, how long does that go on for before it's all destructed?
Well, and I think that part of that is why some at the very top, those that can afford it, that this is, I think, that part of their obsession with immortality, and this like unnatural extension of life and AI and uploading consciousness into the machine. I think that that is an incredibly elaborate way for these people to, whether they realize it or not, I think that they are avoiding the reflection, because what is death but a coming home, things coming full circle. And I think that these people fear death and the judgment that comes with death more so than anything. So we'll see a lot of these people talk about, uploading themselves into the cloud and immortality and the adrenochrome, and all of the lengths that people go to avoid the reflection. Now, for the regular person, the average person, they might not be obsessed with immortality or a dream, but they're certainly going to lean into the buffers that they have created between themselves and the reflection. So whether that looks like a lot of money that they have, that they're, hoarding their wealth, or overly identified with their wealth, and their possessions, that sort of thing can last for a while. Typically we see it come full circle when somebody is, on their way out, and they're saying they're kind of having their life review, as they say, and they realize, or they don't, what really mattered to them. But I think, it's been spoken about before, but when it comes to changing your mind about things, so often it's more about like how other people will react. Like, well, how could you change your mind? You were so sure. You were so gung-ho about it. And I think that that's difficult for a lot of people to either admit that they got it wrong, or admit for whatever reason that they believed it. And if anybody watching is looking for permission or needs permission, can I just give you permission to like move on with your life and change your mind? Like, it's okay. You're forgiven. It's all right. It's okay to learn, to grow, to change. It's okay to disconnect from previous iterations of yourself and your belief systems. You're supposed to change your mind. Don't let people pressure you or rush you or put any of their BS on you, because you're doing what you came here to do, which is to learn and to grow. Okay. And then I also think that you notice there's all this talk of the UFO reality and all this stuff coming down the pike about aliens. I think that that's kind of like the cherry on top for the MAGA movement, because MAGA's base is primarily Christian. They're Christian, not all of them. There's a lot of people in MAGA that are all across the board, all different things. But I think they know damn well that by introducing this alien narrative, that gives an opportunity to really shake the base of MAGA. Because MAGA, a lot of these people are Christian Zionists, which is an oxymoron. But that's a whole theological discussion we can get into at another time. But I think that this whole alien narrative is probably going to be one of the final dividing factors between people of this country. So we'll see what happens. And Canada.
Yeah, it's like we're going through such a filtration process. Like you think about how different MAGA or any of these ideologies or ideas or initiatives were at the beginning versus
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
And it's like filtering through, I think, for a layer of consciousness that's going to stay connected to truth and divine order and like organic structures and buildings in society and ways of being. And it's just creating a separation. And I've always had this thought, is it just part of our fate to like go through this filtration process and really divide out, okay, who's willing to self-reflect, who has the humility or the self-awareness or the eyes for truth and for God and for, potential of who we're meant to be and how society could be, how good it could become. Is it just filtering out people who will never jive with that?
It's really interesting. Years ago, I used a term I called it the Anubis effect. And when I say the Anubis effect, Anubis is the god of death in in the ancient Egyptian pantheon. He's he's depicted as a jackal, and he is one of the beings that you meet when you cross that threshold between life and death. He's not evil by any means, but he is definitely an ominous figure, Anubis. And so what Anubis has is a feather in one hand and a heart on the other. And in order to successfully traverse this barrier between life and death, Anubis will weigh your heart against the weight of a feather. And if your heart outweighs the feather, you basically can't get through, and you still have more to do. You have more lessons to learn. You have more work. And the metaphor here is that, to have your heart as light as a feather, it has a lot to do with your ability to let go of things like ignorance, pride, hate, resentment, jealousy, greed, all of these things. And so when I say the Anubis effect for the entire for civilization, I do see a kind of sweeping filtration system that seems to come in waves. So it's not just one big sweeping filter. It seems to happen periodically.
Yeah.
And so this is why, as new information comes out and we are all collectively challenged and posed with a lot of the same questions at the same time, you'll notice. Now, mind you, everybody's individual journey is different. We could be talking about things now that someone's listening and they were like, I knew that 40 years ago. Okay, that's fine.
Knew that when I came out of the womb.
And I get that. I feel that. But the Anubis effect is a multi-phased filtration system. And every time that filter moves through humanity, it's like moving through a fine-tooth comb, and all of this stuff basically gets raked out of the way. And so I think that that's what we're dealing with. And I think if your heart remains light like a feather, and you don't hold on to the hatred, the ignorance. I'm not saying you can't have it. Listen, guys, I seethe with hate and resentment for like several hours out of the day, okay? But then I let it go. I work it out, or I punch a bag or whatever. It doesn't define me. It doesn't define me. So, and I don't I think it's really just important, the self-reflection. If you don't have the ability to self-reflect, now this doesn't mean you have to go admit to everybody you've ever met, I was wrong, I'm sorry, you were right. It's not like that. This is about your ability to be honest with yourself and reflect sincerely with yourself and get to the bottom of it. It's between you and Anubis type thing. But it's so interesting that you mentioned the filter thing, because I hadn't thought of that little theory that I came up with back when I was, I don't know, I might have been like 32. I thought that was great at the time. I was like, I got something. I was like, I
caught one.
I caught one. Yes, yes. But you know what I'm saying,
Yeah, I do see it as like, I kind of see our like energetic framework as like this grid around us, and like we have our internal workings and structures, but it interacts with that grid outside of us, and that grid outside of us can really be influenced, formed, deformed, harmed, grown, purified by the people around us, by the environment around us, by frequencies. I don't care if it's radiation, like EMF stuff. The people around you, if they're constantly projecting onto you, if they're holding you in a very distorted view, all of these things can affect that grid around you, which then affects the inner. So I just think that it's another layer when you add all these ideologies and societal expectations and normalities that are really just normalities for normies and NPCs, and try to apply that into your grid. And everything just becomes distorted, doesn't feel right. You feel like you're in the twilight zone. You feel like something's not right and something's got to give all the time. And we're not taught about that, how it's like an entire ecosystem. And when you're operating in divinity with God, connected to your true nature and your true soul, anything that comes up against those grids is going to have an influence and effect, and you're going to sense that.
Yep. Yes. I think you're 100% right. And it's a game of like contrast. And it's the sort of thing where like you just don't realize how disconnected or how out of alignment you are with, say, a person, a partner, a friend, a relative. You really don't know until maybe you get some space or you get another perspective. I had no idea that I was living in a freaking loony bin until I came of a certain age, left home for a while, and then came back, and I was like, people don't live like this.
Yeah.
You don't know. You just don't know until you know. And this is why I tell people, give yourself grace. Like, be gentle with yourself throughout this process. I know the internet is a very scary place. I don't, everybody and anybody is willing to just, curse you and attack you and say all of these horrible things for whatever reason. So it's really not the best place to showcase your change necessarily. I think a lot of that work is done kind of in your home with yourself, with your close people around you. But really, when you are out of alignment. Your body will know, your body will tell you. And I think also circumstances in your life will allude to the likelihood that you're no longer in alignment with this person, these people, this group. And as difficult as it may be, I do feel that we are rewarded by taking difficult, albeit difficult, but necessary steps onto a path that it might be unknown, it might be scary, but I believe that the universe meets us halfway. I know that actually. I've lived it. You've lived it. And it's tough to leave what's comfortable. I know it's very hard for MAGA. There's a lot of people that I'm still friends with that a lot of them are still kind of the same iteration of MAGA that they were back in 2020, 2021. And they just can't accept that the game has changed. We have new information and that it's okay to, loosen the grip a little bit from this ideology that really has just evolved over time. So, yeah, guys, huge word of advice. If you're making decisions or living your life to appease somebody else's idea of you or who they think you're supposed to be, this will manifest as the loss of income, disease. This will manifest as loss of property. This can manifest as accidents. This can manifest as depression, all manner of psychosomatic disease or ailments. And I know that because I've lived it. And the longer you stay in a version of yourself or an environment that's not in alignment with your higher self, I believe it gets more and more difficult each step you take or each day that passes that you don't make a change.
Yeah. And the severity of that and how long you stay in that state or how bad things get, how uncomfortable you get internally is really dependent on your connection to yourself and your relationship with truth, with objective truth. Can you observe reality without over explaining and justifying everything that's going on, whether it be like a person coming at you, circumstances that aren't ideal, situations that just keep coming up against who you truly are and who you're becoming. If you know you're on a trajectory of growth and healing and expansion, you have to nurture that ability to see and honor the truth. It's one thing to look around and see it, but if you're staying stuck in a little bit of victimhood and you're reasoning and you're justifying it and you're coming up with reasons of why that's what you deserve or it's out of your control, then reality is just going to keep reflecting that to you. Even if you have a deep inner knowing that that's what's going on, you have to get your 2 feet under you and start moving them. And I say that from experience because I've sat there in the overthinking and overanalyzing and figuring out this and figuring out that and tuning into the intuitive development side of it. But nothing substitutes seeing the truth and then honoring it, which means taking action and making a change and not wrestling with it.
We have to act. That's like the biggest part is that we have to act. And it doesn't have to be, this huge, in one fell swoop, some crazy act. It can look a lot like, cleaning up certain financial obligations so that you have enough funding to go ahead and make some significant change that you have to. That might take some time. But little things really do add up to big things. And you made a really great point, and I wanted to touch on it for a minute here, is, your relationship to truth. Like a lot of how you conduct yourself in a challenging situation has a lot to do with your personal relationship to truth. And like you mentioned, it's too easy to analyze the situation and make justifications for not changing it or staying around or dealing with it. But I think that is under the surface, that comes from a scarcity mentality, right? And there are people that will use that as leverage over you, because they also have a scarcity mindset. So I think that scarcity mindset and the fear of lack is like seriously, it's some kind of a viral contagion. It's the fear that there is not enough, there won't be enough. We can't, you need all of these material things. You need, this material or financial support because you can't do it any other way. I know people that stay in wildly dysfunctional marriages and relationships because they just can't see themselves financially, supporting themselves. And I understand, but I also think that like you said, it's too easy to just look and analyze the mundane around you. When if we're being 100% honest, everything that we see is rooted in the spiritual world. So your beliefs will dictate your surroundings. So if you believe that you can't do it without that toxic guy or toxic girl, you can't. But if you have an understanding of the way that the universe works and the fact that we live in an abundant universe and there is no scarcity, there is no lack, that's an illusion, that's a lie, it's a mirage. Then you realize that if you just do this much, the universe will do this much and it will meet you halfway. And I don't say this as some idiot on the internet who's like, you can do it. Like, I've done it. I have done it. I've done it time and time and time again. I've fallen back into the BS and then that defeatist thing comes up. Oh, I can't do it, or I don't deserve it, or whatever. And then you just see yourself out of it. You give yourself your time to have your pity party and then you get on with it and you move forward. But I think what you said was just so key is like your ability to successfully move forward in the face of this like imminent change. You got to change something. You have to do something. Standing still, I think, is death. Standing still and justifying standing still, I think, just tells you where you're at. You're scared. You're afraid. Don't
What happens with stagnant water? It literally rots and decays.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We have this in the tarot. So those of you that are into tarot, you might know, but the waters, the cups, the suit of cups in tarot, we have a few archetypes that represent just what you mentioned, the stagnation of water, the Four of Cups, the Seven of Cups, these things that imply when you don't introduce new water or there's no flow and there's no systemic cleansing or some kind of introduction of something else, that water breeds disease, it breeds sickness, heaviness, and depression, mental illness, you name it. Heavy
You can literally think of it as the energetic flow through your life and through your physical body as well. And as soon as that stagnates, it's going to start a decaying process. Like there's only so long you can sit there before there are way harsher consequences than if you had just faced the truth and made a decision in the other direction to create that flow. Even if you mess it up, you're still flowing, you're still learning, you're still circulating the energy around and opening possibilities. So there's really nothing worse than stagnating all of that energy and staying still. And you'll notice a correlation between when your life feels like it's stagnating and you can't quite get out of that box, and your ability to go out and move your body and like, when you're just kind of on a roll and like you have this conversation, you run into this person, you meet this person, and just sparks of possibility open up. And that can happen even if you take a misstep, like in the wrong direction, you will be rerouted.
Yes. You're exactly right. I mean, guys, she's exactly right. She knows what she's talking about, you guys. Like she knows her shit. Danielle and I don't. Thank you. Well, we're in it, a lot of all of this is we're doing this because we've lived it. We're doing this because we felt guided to do this. This is just right for you and I to do this. And it's not necessarily the most comfortable thing. We're both, we have our unique set of challenges, but we also know that we'll probably really regret it if we don't take some kind of steps to embody and emanate these truths that we've learned that have really imprinted on us. And this is just what we feel that we have to do to be of service and really to rise to the occasion of our highest timeline. So you're basically witnessing those steps that we're talking about in action right now.
Yeah,
And I'm
any
just like,
creative initiative or doing something new is going to fit that framework. It doesn't matter if you're like making an investment, buying a home, you're an entrepreneur, like starting a new project, like anything that involves risk and visibility, creativity,
yes.
doing anything differently, you're now walking the talk of what you've learned from a new level.
Yes. And it really takes just like this much. And I've talked to so many people, and I have never, ever heard anybody say to me, Jenny, I really regret trying. Or like, I really regret, taking this risk and taking this plunge. People make mistakes, but I'll tell you, the only real regret that people have is that they didn't act sooner, and they regret being afraid because you realize that it's far more detrimental to remain stuck in an iteration of yourself that either you were previously or that other people have put on you. And you mentioned that earlier. We are very sensitive, energetic beings, and we're sensitive to frequency. We're sensitive to people's psychic faculties. And so when we're around people that have a kind of crystallized understanding of who we are at the mercy of that, whether we like it or not. Whatever we tell ourselves about ourselves, who we think we are, our personal identity. If you're constantly around someone who has their idea of who and what you are, you're going to have to deal with that contrast every time that you deal with that person. So this is why I say, if it's a job with toxic people, get a new job. If it's a toxic marriage or relationship, move on. Do you know what I mean? And only you guys know how to define, what is genuinely toxic. I can't make that decision for you, but I will tell you the only time anybody ever tells me they regret something is they regret two things. They regret never trying or never starting, and they regret ever being afraid. Because then they do it and they're like, oh my God, I'm so glad I did that. And I'm like, yeah, it pays off. I think the universe rewards bravery. I believe that it rewards our action. You know who Teal Swan is, right?
Yeah.
Good old Teal. People have a very polarized view of her. I don't really care either way about her past or her story. Like I don't care. She does have some pretty cool nuggets of wisdom that I pick up on. And she was, oh my God, what was it? She was like, I totally lost my train of thought, but what was she talking about? She was talking about how like, oh no, it's gone. Maybe it'll come back. Sorry.
That's
Sorry,
okay.
Teal. We love you, Teal.
Maybe it wasn't meant to come through. Who
Maybe
knows?
it wasn't. I don't think that it was. I don't
I
think
was
it
gonna
was.
say though, when you're saying like you've walked it, like Jenny has walked the path, you've seen the energetic layers that involve certain choices and situations and developing yourself and developing your life. And like not only have you walked the walk, but like you made a living out of observing people's internal frameworks, beliefs, how it all works together, the energetic landscape that lives within someone and surrounds them. And she's literally advising people on, people, decisions, like multiple life areas by having a good relationship with the truth and being able to see it and articulate it in such a beautiful way where someone can actually
Oh, thank
receive
you.
it. And I mean, it's up to them what they alchemize that into, if they apply it or not, or if they're at the level to receive it. But yeah, I guess like in observing all of these energetic landscapes of different people, have you noticed certain themes or just anything specific come through for you around the people who are able to walk through life and create way more wealth, create a completely different reality for themselves, make those really difficult shifts that were like the epitome of alchemy? Like, do you have anything that comes through around that?
Yeah, and this it might be unexpected, but I had a lot of my questions answered over the course of many years doing this work. Things that I think are only revealed to a student when you're in the field, you know, working hands-on, like rolling my sleeves up and swimming around somebody's energy, their background, their story, what they want, where they want to go. And I came up with an unexpected, that was weird.
Yeah,
Did
I
you see
saw
that?
that. I'm getting chills. Yeah.
That was, I didn't see it with my eyes. I can only see it like in the viewfinder here. That was weird. Now I have chills. Eek!
I had chills before I saw it, and then I was like, oh, hello, little creature.
Hi, little creatures. It's actually a healthy sense of detachment. And when I say detachment, I don't mean that they don't care or that they're nonchalant, because it's anything but nonchalant.
Not like spiritual bypassing.
It's not, no, exactly. It's so they have, I've noticed a common theme is that they have detached themselves in a lot of ways from what was put onto them by society, by parents, teachers, university, employers. A lot of it with these like high achievers, you know, the people that make an absolute killing with their living. They have all this wealth, they have, you know, good families, they have good relationships. A lot of it was because they had to work at a certain point on detaching themselves from a version of themselves that was basically put on them by other people. And then through that journey, they discovered that a lot of what we see is not what it is. So that's another thing, is that what you see is not necessarily what it is. There's more behind it. So there's almost this level of detachment to the material world that allows all of this abundance to flow towards them almost effortlessly, because they're not attached to what they're seeing. They have an understanding that what we see is more of a reflection of what's, you know, this, what's behind it. So that's actually something I would say is there's a level of detachment, and they're very fluid, you know, and you know, and that's not to say that if you're not very like rigid that you can't make money or that you can't be successful. But we're talking about what's rewarding. You know, we're talking about what at the end of the day makes you feel like you're in alignment with your highest timeline. And a lot of folks that I talk to happen to be particularly interested in being of service, you know, to creator, and they want to be part of the solution. They don't want to be takers. They don't want to be, you know, the richest at the end of the day. They really want to have the best life that they can on earth. And it starts with detachment, believe it or not.
Yeah, it sounds like really this alchemical process of being kind of that like journey of being forged by the fire, like
Yeah.
seeing that there's something inorganic about the structures that we're trying to fit ourselves into. So
Mm-hmm.
it kind of causes a collapse or reorientation of our belief systems in
Yes.
school, in society, in our first jobs, like starting a business, like working with the wrong people, like stuff
Oh
like
yeah.
this. So it really causes you to differentiate yourself and probably completely detach from those structures and projections of like who you're meant to be or like the boxes
Yes.
that exist in society.
Yeah.
And then I can imagine obviously that creates like a complete rebuild or restructuring of the identity, like
Mm-hmm.
self-concept. Who am I? Because that's so disorienting when you look around at what's available to fit into, as we do as humans naturally,
Mm-hmm.
um, and realize that you don't fit in anywhere. And then
Mm-hmm.
how that kind of has not only deconstructed your belief system, everything you've been told, but you have to completely reorient yourself to that. So that causes
Mm-hmm.
a complete like self-discovery process and reworking of the identity, which is so important and like every successful person talks about.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that's like so accurate, and I've definitely observed that as well.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's, you got to be fluid, and you have to let go of things when it's time to let go. And that's one of the hardest things, especially with a lot of the folks that I work with that, you know, they have big hearts and they, you know, they want to show up for the people that they love, you know, and one of the more painful realizations is that sometimes the people that you love and the people that you've dedicated your loyalty to, your energy, your time, your life, those people struggle a great deal with self-love. And so a lot of your energy that you're pouring into these people, it's not reciprocated. It's a little bit like throwing money into a hole or throwing all of your precious energy into a black hole with no bottom. And again, like there's nothing inherently comfortable about this process. It's scary, it's painful, it's challenging, but one thing I just know to be true is that the universe does seem to mirror our behaviors, our beliefs, and our actions. And so, I think people get hung up. They're like, well, if I leave, in 6 months from now, I'm going to be lonely and this person's gonna move on and this other partner. And it's like, you actually have no idea what's gonna happen. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's that little voice inside of your head, your fear that tells you that you're trapped, you're trapped. And take it from me, you guys. You know, I had so much like crazy belief in myself, and I don't even know where it came from. I just knew that I needed to read cards for people. And from my parents to my friends, they were like, don't you want to get like a job with benefits and stuff like that? And I was like, well, this is what I do. And this might lead me, onto a path where that stuff is, part of the course, par for the course.
Benefits to what? My soul, my heart, my
right.
infinite
Health,
potential.
dental benefits and healthcare. But so really I'm saying, like, if I can do it, you guys can do it. If I can redefine my identity where I was so MAGA um back in, like, 2019, 2020. Don't get me wrong. Like, I am still a patriot. I still clap. You know what I mean? Like, I love my American flag, and Trump is still my favorite character in the Great Awakening. But it has changed. The terrain has changed. We have changed as a people. And it's that Anubis effect. It's that Anubis filter is how much new information can we take in and remain open, dynamic, fluid. That's who I think is really going to end up on top. I don't mean the richest or the most successful, but healthy, not living in fear. I think that that's how you get out, because the worst thing in the world is being afraid, waking up and going to sleep afraid. That's pretty bad.
And like, you are, at the end of the day, you are consenting to having your whole energetic system and nervous system hijacked, your thought process, your mind, your energy hijacked when you tune into all of these headlines and everything coming out right now.
We all know someone or people that are addicted to the news. Like, they have to have either a CNN or an MSNBC or Fox News. Like, they have to have the news cycle.
Like, even the awake stuff, it's no better.
Right. No, it's true. It's a comfort. It's a desire for your inner narrative to be, reinforced with some kind of external validation, realistically. And I think something that you and we may do as we move further into this collaboration, is maybe explore ways that, sort of, all the different ways that attuned people receive necessary information without media. And I know this might sound crazy, but years ago, I had a dream, and Trump was there, and he told me that we were entering an age of an entirely new type of media, and that astrology was going to be a primary modality in helping people understand the news cycle. Now, at the time, I didn't know that Trump was that kind of guy. So I was surprised. I was thinking, that's not very Christian of this person or Judaic of this person, but that's the message that was communicated. So I do think we're entering a time where it's the death of legacy media. I think we have been over inundated with news from other outlets. And I wonder, is there a way to generate news directly from source right to the heart? And I think yes. I think that there's a natural internet that lives and breathes on planet Earth.
And I think, like, we all connect to that at varying levels through all the clairs. Like, some people can audibly hear something, some people can sense it or just an inner knowing, some people are dreaming it, some people have all of them online. So I think that's kind of just connected to that natural network and a way that we are really designed to receive truth and information, not just from staring into black screens at perfectly curated content that's designed to hijack your nervous system, your energetic system, and completely reroute your day and your belief system.
Completely. There was a time when I was waking up and like the first thing I would do is look at my phone. And if I saw like a negative comment towards me, I was like stuck in a negative mindset for the rest of the day because I'm like, oh, that just pissed me off. That just ruined my day type thing. The natural, it's like, it's weird. I think that the internet that we have is some kind of like
Mimicry.
it's a mimicry. Exactly. You're exactly right. I think that there's some kind of a naturally occurring like message delivery system that, I think people are psychically, telepathically linked to one another. And so, if all of this stuff goes dark and, the media outlets all fall, legacy media dies, it really wouldn't be the worst thing to happen to us. I think it could be a great, opportunity for people to lean into the old world way of communicating with each other. Um,
And
we
it's
don't,
incredible how much those senses come back online when you detach from the
oh my God, yes.
artificial tech network, like
Yes.
the internet, these black screens. And I would challenge, especially those who have never done so, to take a few days off, like go
Hmm.
camping in an area where you know there's no cell service,
Oh my
and
God, I
watch what
know.
happens to your mind and how much spare time and spare space and how much your energy transforms, and just observe, just enjoy and experience and observe, because something that really concerns me is what happens to someone's nervous system and mind
Hmm.
and emotional landscape when they are completely detached from their tech. If that's something that you cannot handle on a human level, it's definitely something to look at. And I think that's so common right now. That's like our new natural state, and I just refuse to accept it.
That has got to be a topic for our next talk here because
Yeah.
that's huge. And I wanted to ask you, is this just happened to me the last few days? I, out of nowhere, I swear it's like an allergic reaction to my phone. I couldn't even hold my phone in my hand. I was like, ew. Or if like the screen would light up, I would get nauseous. So kind of like, some people one day they're just off coffee. They're just like, ugh, like not today. There's just something about it doesn't agree with me today. I have literally been having allergic reactions to my phone where I'm like, I'm sorry. If anybody wants to contact me, like they're gonna have to wait. I can't even have my phone in my hand. The heat, the pulsing from it. I'm like, get it out of here. It's an allergic reaction. Has that ever happened to you?
Yeah, that's happened to me for a long time. So I've been pretty cognizant of like the
Wow.
feeling in my body and the thoughts that I'm having if I've been holding my phone for a little while.
Yeah.
And I find it very helpful when I'm working and everything, like even though I'm like on a computer screen, to have my phone way across the room. I also
Yeah.
sleep, like for years, I've slept with it on complete airplane mode.
That's good.
Because like all day, every day, if you're sitting there with a device in your hand, it's become like
Hmm.
an extension of your appendage.
Hmm.
That's not the natural
No.
makeup of your being. That is incompatible with your
Hmm.
energetic system and your body's intelligence. So it's going to have some perception of this. It's going to pick up on it. And
Yes.
if you're around and touching tech all day long, like not even right in your hand, but now even like um, washers and dryers and everything being connected to Wi-Fi is insane to me. Newer vehicles emit so much EMF. So not only
Hmm.
from the phones, but every environment that we're around, if you're
The
not
cell towers. I got one right
consciously,
there.
yeah, intentionally putting yourself in nature, as I
Mhm.
point to my AI forest.
Same. I mean, hey, what are we gonna
um,
do?
we're working on. No, I'm always in a somewhat forested area. I do not like being in the city, but where I was going with that is like you're picking up positive ions all day long that are collecting on your energetic field. Like we
Mhm.
are electrical beings, and that's causing a lot of inflammation and interference with
Yes.
the flow of energy. So
Completely.
I mean, we can like go ground and put our hands and feet on the bare ground and drink lots of water and have minerals and salts and all these things. But I think so many of us are getting like overridden, or our bucket of tolerance for the tech
Yeah.
is reaching
Yeah.
an overflowing state. And then we're having like a histamine reaction, and
Yeah.
our body's not
Yes.
having an inappropriate response to the stimulus. It's having a completely natural and
Mhm.
appropriate response
Right.
to its environment. So yeah,
Mhm.
we're at a point where we have to make a conscious effort to support our body through that, limit our connection to tech, and just be mindful about it.
That's the transhumanist agenda that she just outlined, everybody.
Yeah.
That's exactly what this is. Humans have changed. Humans have been changed by the technology. And the word histamine, that was actually the word I was trying to think of, but I couldn't bring it down. But it was like a full-blown histamine response, like itchy, kind of like with like an allergen or, pollen, where your body is like, ew, like I'm having some kind of an itchy stinging nettle or something. So there's just something about it.
Yeah.
It's not healthy.
That can also be like anytime you're having like inflammation, something that seems like a histamine, like irritated response. It
Hmm.
can be tech, it can be that buildup of positive ions that you want to counteract with the negative ions of the earth.
Okay.
That magnetism is important and
Yeah.
grounding. And it can also be suppressed rage. It can also be when you're in an environment where you are needing to be smaller than you actually are,
Oh yeah.
not expressing as fully as you should be in a healthy
Hmm.
state, in
Oh
a
yeah.
natural state. Um, so yeah, there's so many levels to that type of like inflammation and allergic type of response. And I think when we like really look at our environment, our relationships, and how we're allowed to exist within that, it really paints
Hmm.
a picture of why the body's showing the signs that it is. And if we
Yes.
actually learn to listen to this and be intentional about how we're living or supporting it through those things or making
Yes.
necessary changes, then we stop like villainizing and demonizing these symptoms and the state of the body, and we actually tune into the intelligence that's there and let it guide the way and use it as a feedback loop of information and intelligence
Hmm.
of truth. Are we in the right
Hmm.
environment? Are we aligned? Is it as simple as I've been holding my phone 24/7 for the last
Yeah.
week?
Right.
It could be that simple, or it could be way more in depth.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would just be such a cool subject matter for us to explore and maybe even like talk to people and get their experiences with that because I know we're not the only ones. And it's so weird. Like there's a certain individual, every time I get around this person, I almost immediately begin to swell, like my hands, my feet, and my face. And I didn't even think of it till you just mentioned that. And I'm like, why, what is that about? It might have to do with cortisol. It might have some kind of a stress response where the lymphatic fluid tries to sort of rush to protect you in a weird way.
What are the hands and the feet are like huge energy portals. Like that's where
Yes.
people, when you first start um, working with energy and recognizing your own energetic, generation of
Yes.
energy
Yeah.
with the hands, with the feet, those are known to, like that's your grounding anchor into the earth. Your
Wow.
hands can really direct energy, and your
Hmm.
face is how you present to the world. So
Hmm.
looking at the deeper meaning of that, I mean, it kind of paints a picture, right? Like just
It really does.
another example.
I think this could be so cool for us to do that. That might be we'll take some mental notes here and figure that into our next discussion is, the symptoms of what it looks like and feels like when you're in an environment that is out of alignment with your truth, with your heart frequency. Some people I think are just built different and they were born for a transhuman reality, and they fully embrace it. And I think that those people might be part Zeta Reticuli, and that's a whole nother thing for a whole nother day. But I believe that, the gray aliens, the one with the ugly ones with the big bug eyes and they're short, and I see them and I just want to smack them. Like I just want to like kick them and smack them and because they don't scare me. They're just like they're just like little shits. Like they're just like little little troll energies. But I believe that they meddle with the human genome to such an extent that as of right now, we live amongst people that have the gray DNA in them. And
Yeah.
those could be the NPCs of the world, the people that seem to have no or limited to no ability of self-reflection. They seem to be extremely void of empathy or emotion. I actually think that those are the people that the Greys have managed either through DNA targeting, family tree targeting, or really any combination of factors that went into it. But I do believe that we share civilization with hybrid people.
Well, and they have possessed the technology for a long time to detect levels of intelligence, spiritual abilities,
Hmm.
certain bloodlines and DNA that might hold a higher spiritual power or
Hmm.
just emit a little bit more light than
Hmm.
others. So
Hmm.
that could tie into detecting like targets for that. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's a whole other level that we could go into.
That's a whole nother level, right?
Now we're
Right?
brainstorming in front of
Yeah, this is like a rare look into our creative process here, but this is really how it goes. We just go with the flow. And I just want to say, guys, like I have been open to finding really a female. In my mind, it was always I envisioned a woman that I could have this kind of relationship with that had the we have our little like kind of light and dark, our play on light and dark. Notice even our palettes. And this was not, we never planned this. This is just how our energy complements each other is we have this kind of like light and dark and all the different shades in between. But I just feel this is kind of case in point to what we were talking about. When you trust your path and you trust that the steps that you are taking, even though it's scary or uncomfortable, but you just know in your bones, in your heart that it's the right path, things just fall into place and the right people come your way. And it doesn't feel like you're swimming against the tide. If it feels like you're swimming against the tide and everything's falling apart and nothing you do is working, you really have to take another look at that because somewhere there is resistance and something is just not in alignment. And your responsibility is to identify it and act on it. And you go from there.
Yeah, I completely agree. There's definitely a natural unfolding and synchronicity and just cohesion that happens when you're like kind of hitting a nerve in a good way.
Yeah, and you feel it.
Yeah.
Most people feel it. They're like, "Oh, there's something there." You know, they'll get the chills, or they just know. People just know.
Yeah. So I think we're going to wrap it up. I think we're just over an hour. So thank you so much for tuning in. We will be back. I think we're going to do these probably weekly, and you can check in the show notes for if you want to work with either of us or check out more of our work. We'll have links in the description box. You can find Jenny, and I highly recommend getting a reading from her. She's so good. So intelligent on so many levels, like the way that you read into the energy and articulate things. And even if you're coming to her with a little bit of an emotionally charged topic or question, she has the capability to like recognize that, work with it, and really move the energy in a way that's going to like come out in a positive outcome, solution, clarity for you. And if you're willing to embrace any level of truth, she's definitely your girl. So
thank you, Danielle.
Your website's jennyconstantine.com. Perfect. And you can find me at missholistic.ca, and we'll catch you guys on the next show.
Bye.
Bye.